guys, Skillfully Awful here and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be talking about some of the weirdest nightmares or dreams I've had. I don't know if you can class some of them as nightmares. Some of them certainly are, but some of them aren't really. I've only had about one or two that genuinely made me not want to go back to sleep, but you'll see all that when we get into the video. I have a dream log on my phone and I just write a bunch of my dreams, the weird ones, the not so weird ones, just the ones that stick out on my head, and I'm going to read some of them. Now I just want to say some of them might be a bit all over the place because I can't really remember them. I remember certain parts but not a lot of them, and when I'm writing them stuff comes back to me, so they might be a bit all over the place. I'll try and make as much sense of them as I possibly can, but yeah, let's just get on with it. Let's start with Something Isn't Right with Island 6. Now I don't know what to title this, but that kind of makes the most amount of sense that I could. I try and title them. Some of them aren't the best, but some of them are kind of close to what happened in the dream. In this dream, basically I started on, there was different islands, but they weren't that big. It's really hard to explain, but dreams are confusing, so it makes sense. Basically there was like an island here, an island over here, just like a few islands scattered about, right? And they were kind of like divided by water, but the water wasn't that thick. The water wasn't that deep, but people just didn't go to other people's islands because it was a bad idea, because some people other islands were a bit to newcomers, so it was kind of just common logic just to stay on your own island. I can't remember whose island I was on. I just know I had an island and there was people on the island, but it wasn't ruled by like a main person, unlike the island that was over that way, which was ruled by Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger, this man right here. I'm pretty sure you could join other islands, but after you had joined the other island you couldn't go back to your island. It was like you betrayed them. I know it was kind of like a school kind of thing because there was school buses. There was another island that everybody gathered to, which kind of like the shopping centre, which had all the stuff to buy food and stuff. Some islands were more wealthy than the other ones, and basically there would be a big school bus that would take everybody to the island, because I remember seeing other islands people, but you couldn't really see them because the buses were like, it was kind of like what's happening now with the distance rule, like you couldn't go near them. So yeah, I could see the buses, but I never really knew who was on each island because you never really got to talk to them. So basically Freddy's island kept building and building and building, so their island kept getting bigger and bigger, but somehow our islands never touched. But he would keep building. He was like the smart one at the island. Like nobody else really built onto their island. They were happy with what they had, but Freddy's island had the money. They had the moolah. They kept building onto their island, and their island was absolutely massive. Like I remember there being tons and tons of like cities in his island, and it was just like, alright, show off. Most of the islands hated each other, but I was close with Freddy somehow. So basically a meteorite comes down and explodes, and a bunch of gold's in it. So lucky for him, but also unlucky, because I'm pretty sure it crushed one of the buildings, but he got tons of gold, so good for him. I think I knew, but I wasn't supposed to tell my island because they'd want some. So Freddy asked me to keep this a secret from everybody, which I did, which ends up making me fall out with the people on my island, which makes them turn against me and start hunting me down, basically. So I had to get off the island. I couldn't run to Freddy's island and I couldn't go anywhere else. And there was this island close to us that no one ever been there before. Nobody really paid attention to it. So while I was getting chased in this caravan full of the people from my island, I went onto the other island and they left me because they didn't want to go into the other island. And turns out there was a reason nobody wanted to go into that island in particular, and why nobody knew about that island in particular. That was because this island was completely empty. There was some houses and stuff, but it was completely abandoned. My feet are not touching the floor because now I'm getting scared, although it's not even that scary. But basically I went onto that island and I was like, fine, I'ma just set up shop in this island. I'ma just live here. So I was walking about, saw the houses were abandoned. I was like, yeah, I could really fit in here. There's nobody else here. I can make it my own wee island. But then on top of this little hill, so there was a bunch of houses. There was like a house here, and a few houses scattered about. And then there was this hill. And on top of the hill was this woman. And I was like, ooh, people, hooray, I'm not alone. So I went up to her and was that a problem? Was that a problem? So when I went up to this woman and asked to help, she turned around and she had blood covering her entire face. I also forgot to mention, this island had a really horrible smell. Really horrible smell. And this woman had blood all over her face. So connect the dots. At this point, some of the islands started to get flooded, which was weird. I think the water was kind of rising. It wasn't flooding, but there was a lot of like water. I think the flooding kind of happened with me betraying my island. Somehow that kind of involved flooding. I don't know how that worked, but it happened. So basically, this woman turns around and I'm like, oh shit, I shouldn't be here. So I ran and she started slowly walking towards me, which was quite terrifying, but nothing to worry about. She's walking, it's fine. I mentioned that the islands were flooded because she started sprinting for me. But like that kind of jerky sprint that ghosts do. And eventually I ran back onto my island. I found the van of the people on my island that were chasing me and they were just kind of camping out because they gave up. So I started frantically banging on the door because I was like, yo, there's a woman, hi, help. And they were like, nah, I'm not helping you. But somehow I managed to get out of my body. So basically I was right at the van and then I like Enderman teleported and I was a bit away from the van and this woman jumped on me and started eating me. But somehow I managed to come out of my body, although my body was getting devoured, but I was like I split into two basically. Yeah, two of me were there. So one of me was getting eaten by this thing and the other me was like banging on the door again like, please let me in because this bitch is trying to chase me. And eventually they did let me in because they saw her gobbling on my other half and they let me in. They forgave me. They were mad at me but not that mad at me. So they let me in and basically I woke up. So I don't know what happened after that, but all I know is a part of me was getting eaten and the other half was away hiding in safety. The next one gives me the fear and oh god, if I'm scared I don't like my feet touching the floor. I have been talking into the back of my mic this entire time. So I've titled this one Hair and I kind of have a little bit of a phobia of hair. Long black hair on a woman, especially if it's wet, ain't happening. Nah. The Grudge, nah, ain't nah. Genuine phobia of it, can't, no. Terrifies the crap out of me. So basically, I can't remember a lot about this dream, but one thing that stands out to me is I remember there was a big pile of hair and it was a big pile, but it was like, and it was kind of just like, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but I remember when I touched this hair, I could feel the face underneath the hair. Like I could feel the nose, the eyes, I could feel it under the hair, but no matter how many times you moved the hair, you could not see the face that was underneath the hair. But I was with somebody and they kept throwing it at me and I kept having to touch it. I was just like freaking out. I didn't want this thing near me. I didn't want it near me at all, but this person kept throwing it at me and I kept having to touch it and it was just But yeah, then I woke up. But there's another part to this, because if I think about the dream before I go back to sleep, I dream about the dream again. And when I woke up, I couldn't stop thinking about the hair and so I went back to sleep and it was still with the hair, but it was kind of extended. She kind of had a story this time. So basically, I was walking my dog. There was a train track on like a little, there's a train track up here, there's a hill, and then there's grass. And the pile of hair was there again. And I threw the dog's ball. So I was walking my dog and I threw the dog's ball and he landed in the hair and kept like ruffling about in it. Because when my dog runs to get the ball, he like tears up the grass. And he was doing that to the hair and I was like, shit, don't do that because, you know, we're gonna get cursed by whatever this ball of hair is. Eventually, I think I found out that like a girl had been decapitated by the train and it was her head, basically, on the floor. Yeah. And once I found that out, she grew a body and started chasing me because now I knew her secret or what had happened to her. So she was like, yeah, I'ma come after you. So I was terrified, started running. And when I'm scared of something, like there was a whole thing that was going about the internet, I'm not going to mention it because it scares me. But I couldn't sleep because of it and I pretended to become friends with this thing. So in my head I was like, oh, it's fine because I'm friends with this thing. If something scares me, I pretend I'm friends with it so it doesn't scare me so often. So I think that kind of worked into my dream. Eventually I stopped running and confronted her and we became friends. So therefore she wasn't a threat to me anymore because I just want to befriend everything that scares me so then it won't kill me. Yeah, that's basically that dream. It's kind of a bit all over the place, but it really freaked me out. It doesn't sound scary, but it just gave me the creeps, grossed me out. No thank you, sir. I think this will be the last one and I've titled it Where's Richie? Now, I have a lot of characters in my dreams, maybe because I'm so into fandoms that they're just all over my dreams. This one I don't really remember very clearly, but some parts stick out. as you will see why. So I was in the college, and there's kind of like, there's a bunch of rooms, there's about 3 of them or 4 of them, and they're all cut off by glass walls, so you could see right through all the classes. And basically I was in one of those, and all I can really remember that Richie from It was there. There was someone else, but I can't really remember who it was. I was talking to them both when Richie went to the bathroom. He needed to go to the bathroom, so alright, on you go, sir. After he went into the bathroom, the school went into lockdown for some reason. So I was like, shit, I need to go find Richie because we all need to evacuate the school right now. So I tried to go to find him, and the school was massive. It wasn't my college, like that room was, but the rest of it wasn't. It was kind of like an old building, and there was like different floors for toilets. Like there was a whole entire floor for boys' toilets and girls' toilets, and another one for boys' toilets because the bottom floor toilets were all broken for boys. And I had looked in all the toilets and I couldn't find anyone, so I went to the broken toilet to try and find Richie, and suddenly they all started flushing at the same time, and I was like, well, I gotta get out of here, because Richie was nowhere to be seen. So when the lockdown sirens started going off, we had half an hour to completely evacuate the school. So I spent this time looking for Richie, obviously. I convinced other people to break in after the shutters were down because we couldn't find him, to try and look for him. But as soon as we got into the school, this is disgusting. There was like blood, guts everywhere. Like the floor was red, and I'm pretty sure the walls were blue, and the floor was white, and the floor was completely red, the walls were red, and there was guts and blood and big piles of bodies on the floor, on the walls. It was, I'm so glad I couldn't smell it because, whoa. But yeah, that was a thing in my dream. So we're walking through all these bodies, crish, crunch, 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 disgusting. For some reason, we had guns. I don't know where they came from, but we had guns, and it was like kind of like a zombie apocalypse kind of thing. We were going in, I still have no idea what happened, but we had guns. People had been torn to bits. Yeah. So basically, I got bored and decided I'm not gonna find Richie. He's clearly, nah, this is not happening. So I left. But it was weird because it was like, when I started to get bored to finding Richie, all of this is in like first person. I can see everything. But then as soon as I started getting bored, I fast forwarded, and it was like I was watching a film, looking in on my dream being the movie. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, and I just kind of fast forward to see if they did find Richie or not, or what happened, and it turns out they did, but there was a mad scientist that turned him into a fetus and kept him in a jar. I have no idea where that came from, but that's where Richie was. Some mad scientist found him and turned him into a fetus. My dreams are weird, incredibly, incredibly weird. And I think I'm gonna leave that there on like one of the weirdest ones. I have a whole load more if anybody wants to hear them. That's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I will probably most definitely be doing one of these again in the future. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe for more because I have a lot more dream related things I want to do. And a lot more horror themed videos coming your way very soon. But yeah, sorry, it's a bit fluffy. But yeah, that's all for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye. How y'all liking this wig? I'm not entirely sure about it. I feel like it makes me look like the girl from Lazy Town. So I'm trying to go for Ramona Flowers vibes, but I feel like I'm going more for the girl from Lazy Town vibes.